Alright, well, first things first. I think that the top plate of the shock is making noise, and I think that's the cause, so that's what it sounds like. So it's the topmost piece. This is the ball joint. This is the stabilizer link. And that's the tie rod end. I believe this needs to be locked. It was left open last time I did an alignment, so we're going to tie that down as well. So the noise technically should be coming from here. So this is how you can tell if your E46 has a loose ball joint. This is an XI model. Sorry, I'm just one person, but just wanted to show this. You see that play on the ball joint? Well, unfortunately, these control arms, the ball joints come pressed in. We're gonna need another one. And the noise, very strange. I think we're gonna need an inner and an outer tie rod. I can't really spin it that much, but when I spin it, I get a... There. So every time I turn the steering wheel, I'm getting a noise coming from the inside. I really hope it's just the inner tie rod. Yeah, this is torn. The other one is held by tie wrap. I replaced this about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. This is original BMW part, so I'm really surprised that it has failed. The outer tie rod is still very, very good. It's just the inner. Anyway, we got more work to do on this. Alright. Okay, today's project, we have the control arm. We got a good used one on Kijiji for $100. We have lymph order, inner and outer tie rod. We have some oil and the bushing for the control arm, because once this bushing is removed, most likely it's going to be ruined. And we have a transmission fluid. This is the 6-speed manual transmission fluid. It's a BMW 330, and I'm Sinan from Car Inspected. And today we'll just go through the process of changing the control arm, the tie rod on the driver's side of this 2005 BMW 330 xDrive. So this is a 36mm socket. To open this, just loosen it and take off the cover for the engine oil cap. Alright, so we turned the steering wheel all the way to the driver's side. We removed this nut for the tie rod here, and that size nut was 18mm, and now we're removing the ball joint nut, and that one is a 19 millimeter. And then we're going to be loosening that nut here, and then the bolts that hold the control arm bushing in place, which we might need to remove this cover before we get to it. And now we're getting this ball joint, the inner ball joint, and we're removing it using a 22 millimeter socket. It's tough, but it's coming. And now we're getting to the bottom cover. Just loosening the bolts here. That one is off. That one has 1, 2, and 3. That one is off. There seems to be an oil leak, which we will investigate. Alright, well, this exposes the control arm, or the control arm bushing bolts, which is one here and one right beside it. It's a little bit of a tight spot, but we'll remove this cover and try to get more access to it. Status, this one is off. That one is loose, but the nut will not come off unless you open up you separate the ball joint here. These two bolts, after removing the cover, the transmission protection cover, the plastic, we had easy access with plenty of space here to put a wrench. The bolts are right here, 15 or 16 millimeter, I don't remember exactly. And now this is rusty. I'm gonna have to clean it, but to separate the inner control, or the inner tie rod, as you can hear, it's pretty rusty, but it's loose. And now, alright, we'll continue. After some hammering, we managed to get that bolt, or that connection off for the tie rod. The inner one is loose, and now we're trying to get this separated with a nice little hammer. That one is already loose, as you can see here. And that bolt and these two are loose, but then we need to separate this as well. Okay, so here we have the tie rod. I cut this open, the boot, with a cutter just to pull it out. So there it is, it's off. Now you have the complete assembly. The reason why it was making noise is, as you can see, very rusty, unfortunately. That part lasted about 50,000 kilometers, which is nothing. This is original, so it just stayed. And it's in very, very good shape. As you can see, it's really hard to move still. So this is in good shape, but the inner one is garbage. And we'll be replacing the whole set with this assembly. We're going to measure the length of the entire thing to keep the alignment close to its original alignment. Here's the control arm assembly. As you can see, this is very, very loose. It's actually playing up and down. And we managed to remove this, but now we need to get this out. That's gonna be a little bit of a challenge. We have a backup just in case. But most likely this, because the rubber is still okay, but when we remove it, there is a high chance that the rubber might tear off. Alright, this new tie rod is installed. We set the length to match the one of the old tie rod. If you guys ever need to measure the length of the tie rod, just make sure you measure from here all the way to the inside of the inner one, just in case the two different brands have a different length of outer tie rod to inner tie rod. So just make sure you measure from here all the way to the inside where it connects to the rack and pinion. And this is just a little trick for anyone that's installing a ball joint or reinstalling a ball joint. Usually these tend to start twisting along with the nut as you are tightening it. A trick that I've learned is I just put any sort of a jack and create load upwards here, and that locks the bolt against here, and it allows you to turn the nut. I used it with this very successfully. I'm trying it here, and we've started the bolts on here. This, we had to use a big press to get this out, but somehow it came out in one piece. We tested the rubber and everything checked out fine, so we're reusing. The bolts are started here, and the bolt is here. The nut is here as well for the inner ball joint. Now what you see, anything that's golden in color, is actually anti-seize that we put in all of the surfaces, including here and in that bolt on the inside, and in that connector here, here as well, here and here, and with both of these bolts here, as you can see them. Alright. Alright. So now we have this tight, this 19mm tight, this 22mm tight, these two as well, and the control arm bushing bolts are tight. I'm just checking the other side, the boot, and if there is anything that's out of the ordinary. Everything checks out, it's fine, except for that oil leak. Alright, so that concludes the control arm and tie rod assembly installation, and now we're going to move on to the transmission. This is a 6-speed manual transmission. This is the drain plug, and this is the fill plug. When you remove the transmission plugs, always make sure you remove the fill plug first and then the drain plug, because you don't want to drain fluid and then find out that you can't fill it up. If this seizes or breaks, at least you'll stop there and try to figure something out. This is, might help someone out there. It says 2 there. Alright, the clutch was replaced about 20,000 kilometers ago. I did the work. Please see the other videos in our YouTube channel at Car Inspected. So youtube.com/carinspected for the video of the clutch installation. That's pretty dirty. Wow. All right. Okay. It's off, and this is what it looks like. The socket 5/16. This is how you know if you filled up to the level. So you keep on pumping until you get a stream of oil coming down, then you know that the transmission is full, and we're gonna plug it with the fill plug. We got the car almost back on the ground. We still have to tighten the bolts, just put it in such a way that there is enough traction on the floor so that the wheel won't turn. And now we're about to put the filter back. Of course, we replaced the rubber seal on that cover, and we're leaving this open to top up with the engine oil. Here's the air filter installed. That's the cabin filter. And we're topping up the oil. And this is the engine filter. And it's well, it's also about a year old. Time for a new one. That's what a new one looks like. And we'll just finish the assembly and top up the oil, and I think we should be good to go.